My friends, wisdom is not found only in books, but in how we treat one another. Every small act of kindness carries the light of the divine. What if your entire life was guided by a sacred law? Not just your prayers, but how you eat, speak, rest, celebrate, and even think. For centuries, Judaism developed one of the most detailed religious legal systems in human history. But was Judaism really just a religion of rules? Or was there something deeper behind the law? Today, we continue our journey into Jewish history and explore one of the most fascinating aspects of Judaism: religion as law. Welcome back to Jewish Wisdom Library, where we explore Jewish history, philosophy, and religious wisdom through classic books and historical texts. In our previous video, we discussed how Judaism emerged from the legacy of ancient Israel after the Roman exile. Today, we move to the next important question. How did Judaism organize everyday life after losing its temple and homeland? The answer lies in law. One of the first things outsiders notice about Judaism is its strong emphasis on law. In Jewish tradition, religion was not only about belief or spiritual feeling, it was about living according to divine commandments. Scholars sometimes call this system nomism, meaning a life governed by law. The goal was simple but powerful: to shape every part of life according to the will of God. Morality, rituals, social behavior, and daily habits were all connected to the law. This meant that Judaism was not just practiced in synagogues, it was practiced everywhere: at home, at work, on the road, even in private moments. The biblical instruction expressed this idea beautifully. You shall speak of these teachings when you sit in your house, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you rise up. In other words, God's law should guide life constantly. Jewish law did not only deal with large moral questions, it also addressed small everyday details: how food should be prepared, how the Sabbath should be observed, how business should be conducted, how charity should be given. To many outsiders, this level of detail seemed excessive. Some critics even accused Jewish tradition of focusing too much on rules. But this criticism often misunderstood the deeper purpose. The goal of Jewish law was not simply to control behavior. It was to bring holiness into ordinary life. Every action could become meaningful. Every habit could become a form of spiritual discipline. Instead of separating religion from daily life, Judaism merged them together. Life itself became a form of worship. Much of this legal tradition was developed by a group known as the Pharisees. Today, the word Pharisee sometimes carries negative associations. But historically, the Pharisees were scholars and teachers who wanted to preserve Jewish tradition. Their goal was to interpret the Torah and apply it to everyday life. They believed the written law of the Bible needed explanation and interpretation, so they developed what became known as the oral tradition. This tradition expanded the biblical commandments and explained how to follow them in real situations. Over time, these teachings became a massive intellectual tradition, and eventually they were written down. The first major written collection of Jewish law was called the Mishnah. It was compiled around the year 200 AD. The word Mishnah means repetition or teaching by repetition. It gathered centuries of discussions and teachings from Jewish scholars. But the Mishnah was only the beginning. Another important tradition, called Midrash, interpreted the Hebrew scriptures. These interpretations often included stories, parables, and moral teachings. Later, scholars expanded these discussions even further in a vast work known as the Talmud. There were actually two versions, the Jerusalem Talmud and the Babylonian Talmud. The Babylonian Talmud, completed around 500 AD, became the most influential. For centuries, Jewish scholars studied these texts intensely. They analyzed legal questions, they debated ethical dilemmas, they tried to understand how ancient commandments applied to changing times. Later scholars continued to organize these teachings. One of the most famous Jewish philosophers, Maimonides, created a great legal code called the Mishnah Torah in the 11th century. Then, in the 16th century, Rabbi Joseph Caro compiled the famous Shulchan Aruch, meaning the prepared table. This book organized Jewish law into a clear guide for everyday life. Even today, many Jewish communities continue to study and follow its teachings. But this raises an important question. Was Judaism only about rules and legal details? The answer is no. Jewish thinkers always emphasized that the law was more than a set of commands. It was believed to be the expression of God's will. Following the law was a way to imitate God's character. Rabbinic literature often repeats a powerful idea. As God is merciful, so you should be merciful. As God is gracious, so you should be gracious. In other words, the purpose of the law was to shape human character. It was meant to develop compassion, justice, humility, and righteousness. The rules were simply tools for cultivating moral and spiritual life. One ancient Jewish teacher named Antigonus of Soko expressed this beautifully. He told his students, "Do not serve God like servants who expect a reward. Serve God without expecting anything in return." This idea was revolutionary. The highest form of obedience was not motivated by fear or reward. It was motivated by love, reverence, and moral conviction. In this way, Jewish law aimed to guide the soul, not just the body. Of course, any system based on rules has potential problems. Too many rules can sometimes hide the deeper principles behind them. People may follow rituals while ignoring moral responsibilities. But historically, Jewish communities developed strong ethical traditions. They became known for their family values, charity, discipline, and dedication to learning. And when persecution came, many Jews even chose martyrdom rather than abandoning their faith. Their commitment to the law became a source of spiritual strength. So Judaism as a religion of law was not simply about rules. It was about building a life shaped by divine principles. Through centuries of scholarship, debate, and tradition, Jewish thinkers created a system designed to guide everyday life towards holiness. In our next video, we will explore another powerful aspect of Judaism, the role of tradition, community, and religious authority in shaping Jewish belief and identity. If you enjoyed this exploration of Jewish history and wisdom, subscribe to Jewish Wisdom Library and join us as we continue uncovering the ideas that shaped one of the world's oldest religious traditions.